There once was a philosophy professor who was giving a lecture. In front of him, he had a big glass jar, a pile of rocks, a bag of small pebbles, a tub of sand and a bottle of water. He started off by filling up the jar with the big rocks, and when they reached the rim of the jar, he held it up to the students and asked them if the jar was full. They all agreed. There was no more room to put the rocks in. It was full. "Is it full?" he asked. He then picked up the bag of small pebbles and poured these in jar. He shook the jar so that the pebbles filled the space around the big rocks. "Is the jar full now?" he asked. The group of students all looked at each other and agreed that the jar was now completely full. "Is it really full?" he asked. The professor then picked up the tub of sand. He poured the sand in between the pebbles and the rocks, and once again he held up the jar to his class and asked if it was full. Once again the students agreed that the jar was full. "Are you sure it's full?" he asked. He finally picked up a bottle of water and tipped the water into the jar until it soaked up in all the remaining space in the sand. The students laughed. The professor went on to explain that the jar of rocks, pebbles, sand and water represents everything that is in one's life. The explanation: the jar represents your life. The rocks represent the most important things that have real value: your health, your family, your partner. Those things that if everything else, the pebbles and the sand, was lost and only they remained, your life would still have meaning. The pebbles represent the things in your life that matter, but that you could live without. The pebbles are certainly things that give your life meaning, such as your job, house, hobbies and friendships, but they are not critical for you to have a meaningful life. These things often come and go, and are not permanent or essential to your overall well-being. The sand and water represents everything else, the small stuff. Material possessions, chores and filler things such as watching television or browsing social media sites. These things don't mean much to your life as a whole, and are likely only done to get small tasks accomplished or even to fill time. The metaphor here is that if you start with putting sand into the jar, you will not have room for rocks or pebbles. This holds true with the things you let into your life. If you spend all of your time on the small and insignificant things, you will run out of room for the things that are actually important. What do I think? In our lives, I identify a few fundamental pillars: spiritual growth, security and health, family and friends, and financial stability. Spiritual growth involves understanding aspects beyond the transient nature of earthly life, making it a crucial pillar. It is my hope that God guides us to prioritize wisdom, placing spiritual growth at the forefront. Neglecting this may lead us to depart from this world without fulfilling the primary purpose of our existence. However, it's essential to recognize the limitations of this metaphor. Priorities can be dynamic rather than static. Elements of lesser priority today may become paramount tomorrow if not properly attended to. Consider an alternative perspective. Let's envision our priorities as a combination of rocks, pebbles, sand, and water. By placing some rocks, pebbles, sand, and water, followed by another layer of these elements, we acknowledge the dynamic nature of priorities. This approach encourages a more flexible and adaptive mindset, ensuring that we address various aspects of life consistently. What do you think? Please leave your comment below. If you like the content, please like or subscribe my channel. May God bless you today with life abundance and spiritual wisdom.